And welcome to another fun-filled episode of that 401k podcast. Ari Rosenbaum here with Dan Venturi. Dan, how are you?
I am doing well, sir. How have you been? Welcome back.
Yes, it feels like weeks since we talked. It was probably only a week. Or didn't I talk? Well, I the last episode I did it solo. Explaining that I went to Pittsburgh, Cleveland, and then Cedar Point in Sandusky, Ohio. And I was telling people how they have about 12 really big roller coasters over there, and I'm a chicken, and I only went on 2 of them, and one of them was kind of okay, and the other one just didn't agree with me. But didn't agree with me that much, where there'd be like involuntary protein spill.
Yes,
we avoided that, which is good. But yeah, it was a lot of fun. I mean, the Pittsburgh part. I mean, I was at PNC Park in June. Went again. It's a great stadium. Then went Progressive Fields in Cleveland, but more importantly, the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. First time I've ever been to Cleveland, and we're going to be there in 3 weeks or 2 weeks from the time that you hear this podcast. And I'm sure people have talked about the Rock and Roll. I enjoyed it. Being a rock fan, it was enjoyable. They had a lot of costumes and some other memorabilia, and you saw the inductees, which is like in a small little room. They actually devoted more room to TV on Rock on TV. They'd have like stuff on the American Bandstand and SNL and the Banana Splits and Josie and the Pussycats and all that kind of stuff. There was more for that than there were for the inductees, which I think is kind of cheesy if you think about it. But all in all, it was a great time, and it's nice to be back. And when I was there at Sandusky, it was the really official end of summer, because they did have Oktoberfest on tap. It wasn't just enough that I saw it in Costco a few weeks ago, but I actually had it on tap. So yeah, it's over.
It's sad. When I was in Colorado a couple weeks ago at the Broadridge thing, they were saying that their kids have been in school for 2 weeks already. Right?
Yeah, I mean, outside of New York and even Mass, New Jersey too. I mean, we always go back after Labor Day, which is, again, Labor Day is the unofficial end of summer, and it's kind of weird to see kids going back in August and early August, and schools taking off of after Memorial Day. I guess it's just to me it's strange.
Agreed. When are your kids going back?
That's the Tuesday after. No, Tuesday after Labor Day.
Tuesday.
Yeah.
At least we go back Wednesday.
Yeah, I remember as a kid, with day school, I used to. There were like days. It was like September 8th, September 13th. I think there was one year. I don't know. It's like they go early and earlier.
Well, you got the high holidays coming up, right? Those are always a couple of days off.
But that's gonna be late September this year.
Late September?
Yeah.
Yeah, I always look forward to them. We usually take the kids somewhere.
Yeah, in New York, for people outside the area, New York, New Jersey, probably Connecticut. I think even Massachusetts, you get off of Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, and for Jews, it's time to show up in synagogue for the only 3 days of the year. For the most of us. And if you're not Jewish, those are days off. And I have a friend of mine who might be coming to. He might be going to the game, with the Giants Patriots game the day before our conference. He's a big Pats fan, and I know that he goes to Disney every time there's Rosh Hashanah. He has one of those Disney vacation places. The
vacation rentals. Vacation club.
Yeah, the Disney Vacation Club, which at one point I thought about joining, but then found out once you join, it's almost like impossible to get a spot. You got like a book like 6 months to a year in advance. And he goes, I know, every year, so, especially during that time. It's a great couple days. I mean, I wish with us Jews, when it's a big Christian holiday, everything's closed except for the Chinese takeout places and the movie theaters.
And the movie. I was just gonna say the movie theaters.
Yeah, well, we always go to Jewish Christmas. You go for a movie and Chinese food, and unfortunately, this past Christmas, my daughter suggested we go see Holmes and Watson, and that was a dreadful movie.
Yeah, you told me that.
All the good jokes were in the trailer.
That's a terrible thing. When you can boil down the movie to a 2-minute trailer.
Yeah, it's always the problem with the trailers these days. I always like the old trailers where they always used to have a narrator to describe the action, and they don't kind of do that now. They just throw like every explosion at you. It'd be like in the old days. It'd be like if you ever look on YouTube, the Poseidon Adventure trailer. I just like how the narrator says it. It was midnight on New Year's Eve. Joined 24 Academy Award nominees and winners. Like Gene Hackman, and it's just that they always use that for the dramatic effect, and I kind of like that, kind of linking the story as to what's about, rather than just intersecting all these scenes that look like a big explosion rather than anything else that looks like a viable movie. But yeah, so yeah, it was a dreadful movie. But anyway, talking about Cleveland. Yeah, talking about Cleveland, we will be at Progressive Field September 20th. Really looking forward to it. Still sponsorships available. Still plenty of time to sign up. We got a game that night against the Phillies. Corey Snyder's our guest. And then in October, we're going to finally do our first football stadium event. And that's going to be Gillette Stadium. Might as well do it with the Super Bowl champion New England Patriots. October 11th. And it's going to be a great event. Good attendance we're going to get out of that one. And then November the 8th, we kind of return home, sort of, to New Jersey. MetLife Stadium, home of the New York Giants, Jets. For the Jets fans, sorry, this is going to be a Giants-specific event. That's just because that's how we roll. Or how I roll, since I'm a Giants fan. And then December 13th, Arlington, Texas, AT&T Stadium. Our biggest venue, 101,000 capacity. I don't think we'll get 100,000 advisors for that event. But it's going to be a nice venue, nice stadium tour. It's going to be a lot of fun for the last event of 2019. 2020, of course, March 10th and 11th at Walt Disney World Swan. That's going to be another fun event. 2-day conference, kind of a different national conference. Laid back, more hands-on. We're going to have, athlete appearances. We have some scheduled sponsors already. We're working on some others. Dan told me about one this week that we hope to nail down very, very soon. And, it's going to be a cost-effective conference. We're not going to, take your firstborn in terms of attendance fees and whatnot. It's enough to pay for the park tickets and for the hotels. And, of course, there are discounts available for the park tickets and the hotels as well. Go to that 401ksite.com. Look for the Disney link. And, of course, you can sign up for all events there. And then 2020, looking at further events, I think St. Louis looks like going to be a lock. And then we have some other venues that we want to talk about. I'm eyeing a venue that's not even open yet. They won't even be open until July. But hopefully next December in 2020, we'll be in Las Vegas. We'll see how that pans out. Obviously, in terms of venues, it's based on cost. Some venues are better than others. Couldn't do Fenway Park when they wanted $10,000 minimum food order. That didn't work out well. Some other venues I thought about fell through because of cost. Looked at San Diego. Phoenix for the Diamondbacks was very, very expensive. But St. Louis already got some pricing, and I think that we're definitely going to be doing St. Louis in May. Probably a game that night against the Mets as they announce the schedule. So go to that 401ksite.com for more information on signing on the events. And, of course, topic for this week, reasons alone. These reasons alone aren't reasons to hire a plan provider for your 401k plan. Just like these, singular reasons that people use in hiring their plan providers, and they're just really dumb reasons why you should hire a plan provider. When you hire a plan provider, you got to look to a lot of reasons. Cost, experience, easy to work with, this, that, plain design. There's so many different factors that you could focus on. But when you focus on one fact, it always blows up. It usually always blows up in the plan sponsor's face that, this is the reason I picked my plan provider. And the idea for the article always goes back, and I've written about that piece The scene, I always love the scene where I think it's the first time you see Ty Webb in Caddyshack with Judge Smales. And Judge Smales approaches Ty in the locker room and says, "Ty, what'd you shoot?" Ty's like, "I don't keep score." So Judge Smales says, "Well, how do you measure yourself against other golfers?" And Ty Webb says, "By height." I always love that line because they're ways people measure other people by, and when you're taking something like height that doesn't mean anything. It reminds me of some of the stupid reasons that plan providers get hired. And number one on the tap over here, number of plans on the books where plan sponsors just hire a plan provider just because the plan provider has a lot of plans under administration. And it's comparison where McDonald's is the most popular hamburger joint in the United States. But has anyone ever said that McDonald's serves the best hamburgers?
Well, they do. McDonald's says that, but
I don't even think they do.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think you see that a lot in retail in general. That's a sort of a flawed proposition that the more you do or the bigger you are, the better you are, or the more suited you are for your individual needs. It just doesn't work. I mean, bigger isn't always better, I guess.
Well,
is
for hamburger, just for Wendy's is better. Burger King is better. I'll get in trouble for saying that. I just think Burger King flame broiled versus fried beats it any day.
The Whopper, agreed.
And the Impossible Whopper is fantastic.
Have you tried that?
I've had it twice already.
I've been on the verge, and I feel like I need to get a backup burger just in case.
You won't. You'll think it tastes like a real Whopper. That's how good they made it.
Really? And this is definitively better for me.
Yeah,
from a health standpoint.
Yeah, there's no cholesterol.
No cholesterol.
And better digestion, because plant protein is easier to digest than meat any day of the week. Anybody can tell you that.
All right. Well,
good. Five Guys is better. Shake Shack is better. Smash Burger is better. And, of course, the best of all is In-N-Out, but that's my 2 cents.
I got two from the past. What about Ground Round?
Damn, Ground Round. Ground Round was... man, what happened to them?
I don't know, man. The popcorn was such a good thing. I think there's still one close to Sesame Place. At least there was 4 or 5 years ago.
Because the last Ground Round I remember there was one in Levittown. And I think
they're long since extinct by us.
Yeah, and there used to be one. I want to say it was the Smith Haven Mall, but I could be wrong.
Well, that's right by me.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's just funny, like, when you think about, some of these dying chains, and they're, like, some that are still around. Like, you can't find by us a Ponderosa. But when I ended up in State College for Hurricane Irene, I ate a Ponderosa for, like, the first time in, 30 years or something. It's just funny, like, you can't find these dead chain, like, there's, like, Bennigan's. There's actually still some Bennigan's around.
Well, so the second one I was going to throw out there was Fuddruckers. And there's still 1 or 2 of those puppies lying around. In fact, there's actually a Fuddruckers at Foxwoods.
Yeah, well, there was a Fuddruckers in Westbury. That was a good place. You get them a lot in Florida still. Funny, you go to Florida. Actually, I had Ponderosa when I was in Florida, on over there right by the Magic Kingdom. I think around there they had a Fuddruckers too. It was just like, it's just funny. There was like a stretch. It wasn't International Drive. It was another thoroughfare in around there that you had all these like different, like, there was obviously Cracker Barrel and just like a lot of these places. And we had I think on Christmas Day I might have had Ponderosa. They were actually open one year when we went. So, yeah, there's a whole bunch of places, and it goes back to like the TPA world. You know what, ADP and Paychex, and I could say their names now. I'm not gonna pretend that I don't have to. They on the books they have some of the most the most amount of plans, but that's irrelevant. In my opinion, because I don't think anybody will ever say that ADP and Paychex are the best TPAs out there. And of course, if you look at ADP and Paychex, while they have the most plans under management that are like usually 1 and 2, they're further down the list when you look at assets. So ADP and Paychex have more plans, but they have smaller plans on the books. And again, it's just silly. And another silly way to measure people is years of experience. I got 21 years of experience. September 8th, 98 is when I first started my first job with, working as a law firm with Mobius Tech, which eventually became CBiz. 21 years ago, by the time you hear this podcast. And I'm not good because I just have 21 years of experience. I think I'm good because of a variety of reasons. Because I worked in the TPA world for 9.5 years, and been on my own for 9 years, and worked for some law firms as well for 2 years. And I've run into administrators with 20 plus years experience who are damn awful. Where somebody new and somebody younger is better. 5 years in, I saw people who had 20 years of experience and didn't know what the heck they were doing. And I remember when I was at Geller Group, I replaced an U.S. attorney who had 30 years of experience. And, I point out what good was his experience when he, would write a plain document that required hours of service for a safe harbor contribution. That's a rookie mistake. I knew from day one, when they first proposed safe harbor design in 98, I think it was, you can't use hours of service as a safe harbor. You can't require hours of service for any type of safe harbor contribution. And what good was that experience if he made a basic mistake like that? It doesn't really make sense. Just many years ago, I remember an attorney telling me the story that there was a woman who came up to him and said, was a real estate transaction. She was considering hiring him, and the only reason she didn't hire him was because he only had like 4 or 5 years experience. And she went to an attorney with 25, 30 years experience. And what happened? She came back to the younger attorney after the older attorney stole the money from the escrow fund of the assets from the sale of her house.
Wow.
So,
right,
she learned the hard way that picking somebody just based on years of experience is just idiotic. It's just not a reason to hire just somebody.
No.
There are plenty of good people out there in the retirement plan world that have less than 10 years of experience. And, the problem with experience is you don't know how good that experience is. I work for TPAs where, they recruit somebody out of college and didn't give them any training. Didn't give the administrator any training. And, if you don't get any training, that administrator is never going to be any good, no matter what you do. And that's a problem. So I just think that that's another, dumb reason alone to hire a plan provider. And then next on my list, it's a favorite topic of mine, is the plan provider who's won awards. And, I think these awards a lot of these awards are kind of silly. And I've been, I've gotten awards. I've gotten awards, for, I'm a big fan of awards sometimes too, just so I could get a little plaque that I could, as a paperweight or something. I got awards for, most read on this JD Super website, articles, and it was named the top 100 in ERISA retirement plans by 401kwire.com. I mean, that's nice, cute little things.
Yeah, those are big deals.
Well, I didn't get any plaques from 401kwire. I not only do I want the award, I actually want a little plaque. I mean, that to me, that's the big thing.
Do they owe you the plaque?
They're not gonna. Not only they're not gonna. They wanted to charge me for the article. I'm like, I'm not paying for that. To me that's like the Walk of Fame, the Hollywood Walk of Fame, where if you want to star, you actually have to pay for the maintenance of it.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Oh yeah.
Well, so that'll be today's fun fact of the day.
Yeah, you actually have to pay for the maintenance of the star.
Wow.
So yeah, I'm not interested in that. But anyway, uh, sometimes these awards are meaningless. My old law firm, and we could say their name now, especially now that they're dying. I think I mentioned on the Myers Swazi, English and Klein.
There you go.
I got named. They were Long Island. Let's space fact. Long Island Business News is this Long Island newspaper, and for some reason or another, we had a big stroke with that newspaper. And I think the stroke was because we advertised every week. So they would always give us awards or something, and one week I forgot. I was one of the lawyers to watch, which
wow.
I forget what I don't know if it was insurance. It was something with like business or whatever. It was a silly little thing, and I get paranoid when they tell you that you're one of the lawyers I should watch. Like, what am I up to? Like, oh, you should watch him.
Watch him.
So yeah, Ari Rosenbaum, watch him. So and I always tell the funny story. There's like this best lawyers. I forgot the name of the top there's a magazine like New York City, and I think they probably have in other areas where they name like the top attorneys, and it usually is based on how much ads the certain law firm paid out. And one woman was a risk attorney named one of the top lawyers, and she was so awful. I was working with her when I was with Geller, and she was working for a client, which was like a not-for-profit that eventually, unfortunately, went out of action because they put all their money with Madoff. But, she wasn't very good. I thought she was terrible, and she was one of those top lawyers in one of those top lawyer magazines. And my Lois, the managing attorney for that old law firm, she'd get awards for top business person and this and that, and she's the same woman who took a law firm of 65 lawyers, and now I think they're down to about 35, 40. And I always joke, like, when you get an award like that, you have to give it back. It's like Milli Vanilli with the Grammy for Best New Artist, when it turns out they didn't sing the songs. They actually had to give they voluntarily gave the award back before they got stripped of it. But, the problem with awards, especially, everybody knows what an Academy Award is. Everybody knows what a Tony Award is, and Emmy, Grammy, and all that stuff, People's Choice, whatever it is. Some of these awards, you have no idea what they are, what's the criteria. For all you know, I'm sure there are plan providers who create their own awards to give it to themselves, that sort of stuff. And it's just silly to just base it on, some sort of award that you have no idea on how, it's won, what's the criteria, and whether it was legitimately won, and whether it's prestigious or not.
Mm-hmm. I think we should start the Aries. Have our own categories.
Yeah, give it to ourselves. That'd be hilarious. Listen, I always tell the story of the advisor I know who created his own acronym, like, accreditation.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Wow, that's original.
Exactly. But it had like a number in it, which I thought was kind of weird, but whatever.
Grade 3.
Yeah, something like that. Next on the list, on the hit list, you already do business with with the provider. Like when you hire your bank to be your TPA or your advisor. If you're using your bank for your commercial needs, hiring them as a plan provider, it's wrong. Not only is it wrong because it's just not a reason to hire them, but there can be suggestions that you commit a prohibited transaction. Like, for example, if you want a better credit line or a higher credit line, and you hire your bank as your TPA, and your credit line is increased, well, that could be perceived as, probably is a prohibited transaction, because as a plan sponsor, you indirectly benefited from the selection of a plan provider. Perception appearances are really big, I think, in the 401k world, especially when it comes to risk litigators. If it looks bad, it's assumed that it is bad, and it's something that should be avoided.
No, agreed. I can't tell you, how many deals we reviewed in a former life where there was a banking relationship that sort of stayed in place because of some of the other things that you mentioned, right? So those contingent sort of relationships are just no good on so many levels.
Oh, exactly. And that's also, along with that is obviously picking plan providers that are related to you or related to somebody that you actually know.
Nepotism.
Yeah. Nepotism is a pretty big topic that I can't stand, obviously, because I really didn't have that many people in my family that were, successful, where I could have benefited from it. Outside from the summer jobs that my father got me, where he, was getting paid minimum wage. Outside of that, really nothing. But I really hate that idea that you hire a plan provider because he's somebody's cousin. That's where the whole. I always use the word juiced in, which is from the movie Casino. Billy Joe Bob Briggs, whatever his name was, he was playing the operator. He was the manager of the floor of the slot machines. And, Don Rickles playing Billy, the casino manager. It's like, oh, well, you can't fire him. He's juiced in. He's the brother-in-law of a county commissioner. So that's why I always use the term juiced in. And, don't hire the plan, don't hire someone such as the plan fiduciary's spouse or child as a plan provider. That would be conceived as a prohibited transaction. But if you hire somebody's cousin, it looks bad. The impression is that you didn't go through the process of hiring somebody on the up and up, which is to me a really, really big deal.
Yeah, absolutely.
And
everything we mentioned, I think, are big deals.
Yeah, these again reasons alone. I should. And this one stands out to me because hiring somebody who's related to you, or hiring somebody who's doing business with you. These are things that even as part of a greater criteria of selecting a provider, this is something you shouldn't be doing. And of course, next on my list, they're the cheapest. Of course, there's a misperception with reasonable plan expenses. The plan sponsor thinks that they have to hire the cheapest plan provider, and that's dumb. You don't have to hire the cheapest. You have to hire somebody reasonable. It's just again, it's something that really hurts people when they pick the cheapest provider because a lot of times they get the cheapest level of service, and it really negatively impacts the plan.
Yeah, I think cost is one of the considerations. It can never be the only consideration, right? So as you're doing your evaluation, that's one of the factors that you throw in. How you weight that, I think that's ultimately up to you. But clearly, it shouldn't be something that drives the decision, right? I think it's more value, more the complete package that you're receiving should be the primary considerations for making a decision. Right? Cost is important in other things, I think, in our industry, but it's cost coupled with the services that you're receiving.
Exactly. And last but not least, they are they're very flashy. A plan provider that's got a pretty cool website, some other bells and whistles that maybe some of the other plan providers don't have, or some cool marketing materials. It's always nice to have a little sizzle, but you got to make sure you got the steak as well. Because sizzle without steak isn't much there. It's just bells and whistles. And you need a little bit more than that when you're hiring a plan provider. So don't pick a plan provider just because they have the flashiest website or the nice, cool-looking marketing materials, because it's all flash. It's not substance. And just I think it's just a dumb thing to focus on. It's like when children focus on certain things that they like based on something. It's like buying cars. Some people, oh my god, like a Jaguar. To me, Jaguars are like a flashy car that just have nothing but problems. You know, when I found that Lois, owned a Jaguar, and I was sitting in the Jaguar, I'm like, yeah, well, that explains everything.
There you go. Well, we had a Jaguar in KC. Remember with the cool a Genesis machine shifter?
Yeah. But well, that was Star Trek 2 Genesis.
Yes.
To make sure that we don't, the people think we're talking about Terminator Genesis. But yeah, I wasn't crazy about that car. But we only drove it for like a day or two. I mean, there are people who drive Jaguars and just, they're not reliable cars. But they look cool, and they got the luxury idea behind it. But I think if you want a luxury car, you're better off with a Mercedes or a BMW or a Lexus. To me, I'd probably, if I bought a luxury car these days, I'd probably pick a Lexus. And
well, there you go.
Exactly. So that's going to be it for that episode of that 401k podcast. And again, go to that 401ksite.com for more information about all our events. And of course, some of my articles there too as well. And that's it.
Well, so with summer officially closing, it's the start of football season. My Buckeyes are playing this weekend along with pretty much every other major college football team. So enjoy the football and have a great long weekend, everyone.
Take care. Bye.